Please arrest me. I'm a criminal." The boy's words shattered the officer's heart and silenced his K9. Snow whipped across the dark highway outside Redfield, Colorado. It was the kind of night when even the wind seemed to ache. Officer Jake Dalton sat inside his patrol car, windshield wipers struggling against the blizzard. His K9 partner Rex curled in the back seat, ears twitching, every sense awake. Then Rex froze, his low growl rumbling through the car. A moment later, the front door of the police station creaked open. A small boy stepped inside, snow clinging to his torn jacket, lips trembling from the cold. He couldn't have been older than 8. His eyes were pale and vacant, as if winter had taken root inside him. Jake rose instantly. "Hey, buddy! You lost?" The boy shook his head. His voice came out as a whisper, cracked by fear and exhaustion. "Please arrest me," he said. "I'm a criminal." The room fell silent. The heater hummed. Even Rex, trained to bark at every stranger, stopped moving, his head tilting in quiet confusion. Jake knelt, meeting the boy's eyes. "Why do you think that, son?" The boy clutched a plastic bag with 2 half-frozen sandwiches inside. "I stole food from the store," he said. "I heard people in jail get 3 meals a day." Jake felt something twist inside him. He noticed the bruises on the boy's wrists, some fresh, others faded, and the way he flinched whenever someone moved too quickly. Rex crept forward, gently pressing his nose into the boy's hand. The boy didn't recoil. Instead, he exhaled, a trembling breath that sounded like relief. "What's your name?" Jake asked softly. "Liam," the boy whispered. "Liam Carter." Outside, the storm raged on, but inside that small police station, a different kind of storm had just begun. A storm of truth, pain, and redemption that would soon uncover a secret powerful enough to destroy lives. Jake didn't yet know it, but the boy's words would lead him into the darkest corners of corruption, and toward a miracle that would change them all. The storm that night was one of the worst Redfield had seen in a decade. Snow draped the streets like a funeral shroud, burying tire tracks and silencing everything but the hum of power lines and the distant howl of the wind. Street lamps flickered under the weight of ice, their orange glow barely cutting through the veil of snow. Inside the police station, the old radiator hissed like an exhausted beast. Officer Jake Dalton stood by the window, looking out into the blizzard, his reflection blurred against the frost. He was 36, broad-shouldered, with a weathered face that carried the quiet fatigue of a man who had seen too much. Before joining Redfield PD, he'd served 2 tours as a military police officer overseas. The discipline never left him, but neither did the ghosts. A framed photo sat on his desk, his late partner, Officer Morgan Blake, smiling beside a much younger Jake. Morgan had died during a failed drug raid 3 years earlier. Jake had been there, pinned down in the crossfire, helpless. Since that night, every rescue, every siren, every case had felt like an attempt at redemption. And then there was Rex, his K9 partner, a massive German shepherd with a thick sable coat and intelligent amber eyes. Rex had saved Jake's life more than once, and in return, Jake had saved his. Their bond went beyond command and obedience. Rex didn't just follow orders, he understood Jake, reading his silences like a second language. Now, as the boy sat wrapped in a blanket by the heater, Rex lay beside him, his head resting across the boy's lap. Jake watched quietly, something tightening in his chest. It wasn't often Rex allowed strangers near him, let alone showed affection. Liam Carter was small for his age, his ribs visible beneath the threadbare shirt. His hair was matted, and the skin under his eyes was shadowed with exhaustion. Yet, even through the dirt and bruises, there was something resilient in him, a spark that refused to die. Jake handed him a mug of cocoa. "Drink slow, it's hot." Liam obeyed, both hands trembling around the cup. "Thank you, sir," he said, voice barely audible. Jake crouched beside him. "You said your aunt takes care of you, right? Where is she?" Liam hesitated. His gaze drifted to the floor. She hasn't come home in a week. Aunt Ruby always says she'll be back before dark, but she didn't. I waited and waited. The food ran out." Jake's throat tightened. A missing guardian in a snowstorm could mean anything, and none of it good. He nodded slowly. "And your parents?" "They don't want me." The boy's answer came too easily, too practiced. "They left when I was little. Aunt Ruby said they were sick, but I think they just forgot me." Jake swallowed hard. He'd heard words like that before, from foster kids, runaways, the abandoned. But there was something in Liam's tone that pierced deeper. He glanced toward Rex. The shepherd had shifted, lifting his head, his ears twitching as if sensing the same thing Jake did, that this boy carried more than loneliness. There was fear buried under his calm. Jake gestured to the boy's wrist. "Those bruises, did someone hurt you?" Liam's shoulders stiffened. His lips parted as if to speak, but the words wouldn't come. Rex let out a quiet whine and nudged him again, gently. That seemed to break something in Liam. Tears welled in his eyes, falling silently down his pale cheeks. Jake sat back, giving him space. "You don't have to say anything right now, son. You're safe here. No one's going to hurt you again." For the first time, the boy looked up. "You promise?" Jake held his gaze. "I swear it." Rex barked once, sharp but gentle, as if sealing the vow himself. Later, when the storm eased, Jake walked to the evidence room to prepare a missing person report for Ruby Carter. Something about the case gnawed at him. A woman disappears. A child shows up with signs of abuse, carrying guilt instead of fear. There was a story behind those bruises, and behind that strange plea. "Please arrest me." Back at the front desk, Liam had fallen asleep against Rex's side, the dog standing guard with half-closed eyes, tail flicking lazily but alert. The sight made Jake smile faintly. "Guess you found yourself a new job, partner," he whispered. Rex's ears twitched, as if in agreement. Outside, the snow kept falling, covering the scars of the town in quiet white. But Jake knew better. Some scars didn't fade. Some waited, hidden beneath the surface, until the right moment to bleed again. And somewhere in that endless white night, the truth about Ruby Carter and the nightmare she'd uncovered was already moving toward them. Morning came in shades of blue, the storm thinning to a hush that made Redfield feel like it was holding its breath. Jake brewed coffee that tasted like burnt hope and warmed a muffin in the microwave. When he turned back, Liam was awake, sitting cross-legged on the bench, Rex's head heavy across his lap, as if the dog had decided a watch could be kept better with contact. "You hungry?" Jake asked. Liam nodded without looking up. "I'm sorry I stole," he whispered. "We'll sort the store out," Jake said. "Right now we take care of you." He set the muffin down. Liam broke it into careful halves, the kind of habit you learn when there may not be another. He fed the first piece to Rex. The shepherd accepted it with priestly solemnity, then nudged the second back toward the boy with a soft huff, as if insisting on fairness. Liam's mouth twitched, the barest shape of a smile. "Officer?" Liam's voice got smaller. "Aunt Ruby told me, if anything bad happened, I should give this to the police." He reached under his jacket and pulled out a wrinkled envelope and a red USB drive taped inside the flap. The envelope had been opened and resealed with a strip of grocery tape. On the front, "If something happens to me, give this to law enforcement. Trust no one." The handwriting shook. Jake felt the floor tilt beneath him. He guided Liam to a quieter office, set the envelope on the desk, and slid the drive into a laptop that never touched the internet. Rex lay in the doorway, a living doorstop with eyes that missed nothing. The video opened on a kitchen lit by a single bulb. Ruby Carter stared into the camera, a bruise flowering along her cheekbone. "If you're seeing this, I've been taken," she said, voice steady because fear didn't help. "I copied something I wasn't supposed to. Names, ports, a list of payments. They call it Falcon, but it's not a group. It's a person, a handler. He erases people. I made a second copy." A sound off camera. Her eyes flinched. "Liam, if you see this, I'm sorry. Run. Don't trust uniforms unless they're with Officer Dalton or the FBI. He knows how to hide in plain sight." The feed jerked. 2 men in black stormed into frame, one gloved hand blotting the lens. There was the slam of a door, a woman's breath dragged from her, then static. Rex gave a low growl that traveled up Jake's spine. He paused the video and exhaled through his nose until the room steadied. "Okay," he said to no one and everyone. "We go careful." He called an old name from an older life. "Elena Moore," he said into the phone when she answered. "I need eyes on something off book." She had been the one who taught him how to think around a corner when he was still learning to salute straight. Now she ran analytics for the bureau and sounded like someone who hadn't slept. "Send me a checksum," Elena said. "And don't plug that thing into any machine that's ever kissed a modem." "I didn't," Jake said. "And Elena, Ruby said Falcon is a person, not a cell." A whistle, humorless. "I've seen that code name. If it's who I think it is, he's not sloppy and he's not local. Sit tight. I'll burn a clean line and call back." Jake hung up. Liam sat with his hands folded, staring in the direction of the dead screen. "Did Aunt Ruby do something wrong?" "She tried to do something right," Jake said. "Sometimes those look the same to bad people." He filed an emergency missing person bulletin and a protective hold for the boy under his custody. The first call back came not from Elena, but from the cold mouth of a disposable phone left ringing at the front desk. Jake answered and heard a smile he couldn't see. "Officer Dalton," a man's voice said, pleasant as a concierge. "It's going to be a long winter if you keep other people's secrets. Return the drive. Forget the boy. Nobody gets hurt." Jake looked at Rex. The shepherd's ears were forward, his body still. "That won't happen," Jake said. The voice sighed. "Stubbornness is so American. Ask your lieutenant how far loyalty gets you." The line snapped dead. Rex rose, went to Liam, and pressed his forehead against the boy's knee. Liam steadied, shoulders loosening beneath the dog's weight. Jake felt the decision land like a stamp. This was no longer a favor to a stranger. This was family business. Elena called back minutes later, her words clipped, the way gunfire is clipped when you've counted too many rounds. "The name Falcon ties to a ghost, Victor Hale, burned from the rolls years ago. Intel broker, ports, shell companies, missing persons trails that end at water. If Ruby had a second copy, she's either bargaining or buried." "Or both," Jake said. "Your house clean?" Elena asked. "Cleaner than my conscience," Jake said. "Then listen, you've got a leak. The way that burner found you, someone local is feeding him, badge or adjacent. Keep the kid off the grid. I'm driving, 12 hours out." Jake killed the overheads and let the station sink into soft dark. He unrolled a camp cot beside his desk and gave Liam the blanket that had once belonged to Morgan. The boy curled beneath it like a seed, finally reaching soil. Rex circled twice, then lay facing the door. Jake sat on the floor with his back to the filing cabinets, knees up, eyes on the boy. He thought of Morgan's photo, of promises made to the dead, of a woman's voice saying, "Trust no one." He thought of a handler who erased people, and a child who had walked into a police station to ask for a cell because it meant food. Outside, the last shreds of storm blew past. Inside, a new front gathered and waited for morning. "Sleep," Jake said softly. "We'll find her." Rex's tail thumped once, a quiet oath laid at the boy's feet. The next morning broke slow and gray, the kind of dawn that painted Redfield in ash instead of gold. Snowbanks leaned heavy against shop fronts, and the town's silence felt stretched too thin. The storm had passed, but something colder had settled in its place, a waiting quiet, as if the world itself was listening for what would happen next. Jake Dalton hadn't slept. The coffee on his desk had gone cold hours ago. He sat by the window, watching the first snowplow crawl down Main Street. Across the room, Liam slept curled on the cot, Rex stretched protectively beside him. The dog's ears flicked at every sound, ever watchful, ever present. Jake had seen war. He had seen families torn apart by greed, by fear, by orders barked down a radio. But there was something about this boy, this fragile soul who had walked through a blizzard to turn himself in, that cut deeper than any battlefield memory. When Liam stirred awake, Jake greeted him with a smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. "Morning, partner. You and Rex sleep all right?" Liam nodded, rubbing his eyes. "He kept me warm," he said, his voice still drowsy. "He dreams a lot." Jake chuckled softly. "Yeah, we both do." The boy's expression shifted, growing distant. "I dreamed about Aunt Ruby. She was in the woods. Someone was calling her name, but she didn't answer." Jake crouched beside him. "Dreams can't hurt you, kiddo, but we're going to find her. That's a promise." As Liam dressed in the oversized police sweatshirt Jake had given him, Jake's phone buzzed. It was Elena Moore. Her tone was brisk, professional, but beneath it, a sharp edge. "Jake, I've decrypted part of Ruby's file," she said. "There are coded manifests tied to an offshore shell company. But here's the kicker. The name Bradley Knox appears 6 times. Isn't he your lieutenant?" Jake froze. Lieutenant Knox had been with the department for over 15 years. A steady hand. A man Jake had trusted. "He's the one who signed off on the missing person report last night," Jake said slowly. "You're telling me he's tied to Hale?" "I'm telling you he's drawing paychecks from a front owned by one of Hale's logistics firms. Whatever Ruby found, it touched your department." Jake's jaw clenched. "Understood." He ended the call and turned to see Liam and Rex watching him, both instinctively sensing the change in the air. "Hey," Jake said softly, "we're going to take a little ride." The road leading out of Redfield wound between pine forests and steep embankments. The snow was thinning under a pale sun, but Jake's gut stayed heavy. He drove in silence, Rex's head poking between the front seats, Liam bundled in the passenger seat with a thermos of cocoa. Liam finally broke the quiet. "Are we going to see Aunt Ruby?" "Not yet," Jake said, "but we're going to find someone who might know where she went." He pulled into an overlook halfway up the ridge, a place where cell service died and conversation couldn't be overheard. There, Jake parked the cruiser and turned to face Liam. "I need you to tell me everything, son, about Aunt Ruby, about what happened before she disappeared." Liam stared at the glove box, hands fidgeting in his lap. "She worked at a company with computers," he said. "Sometimes she'd come home late, sometimes she'd cry." "Did anyone ever come to the house?" Jake pressed. "Yes." Liam's voice wavered. "2 men in black coats. They said they were from her job, but Aunt Ruby didn't want to let them in. One of them had a scar by his eye." Jake scribbled the note down. "You did good, kid. Really good." Liam's eyes glistened. "Did I do something wrong, Officer Jake? I was supposed to stay hidden. Aunt Ruby said if she didn't come back, I should go to the police. But what if that made them mad?" Jake's throat tightened. "No, son. You did the bravest thing you could have done." Rex leaned forward, licking Liam's hand. The boy smiled weakly and whispered, "You're not scared, are you?" Jake glanced at the shepherd, then at the boy. "He's scared," Jake said, "but he's brave anyway. That's what courage is." When they returned to the station, the air inside felt wrong. Too still, too quiet. The desk drawers in Jake's office had been opened and closed again, too neatly. The scent of cold tobacco lingered in the air. Someone had been there. Jake's heartbeat slowed to a careful, deliberate rhythm. He crossed to his desk, opened the bottom drawer, and found the evidence envelope missing. The USB drive was gone. "Stay here," he told Liam and Rex. He checked the hall. Empty. Then the security room. The camera feeds from the night before had been wiped. That's when the door opened behind him. Lieutenant Bradley Knox stepped inside, his easy smile masking something colder. "Morning, Dalton," he said. "Rough night?" Jake studied him. "You were here." Knox shrugged. "I check in on my men." Jake's voice dropped. "You searched my office. You took evidence from a federal case." Knox sighed and closed the door, his tone turning razor thin. "You don't know what you're dealing with, Jake. Ruby Carter was a thief. She stole from people far above your pay grade, and now you've made her problem yours." "Her problem," Jake said quietly, "was trying to do the right thing." Knox's eyes hardened. "You have no idea how deep this goes. Walk away, Dalton. Take the boy, disappear. Otherwise you'll vanish just like her." Before Jake could answer, Rex growled, a deep, rumbling warning. Knox's hand twitched toward his holster, but Jake was faster. He drew his sidearm, voice cold. "You take one more step, Brad, and I swear to God you'll wish you hadn't." Knox froze. "Get out," Jake said, "before I forget what loyalty used to mean." Knox hesitated, then smiled that same smug, venomous smile. "You're making a mistake." Jake didn't lower the gun. "I've made worse." Knox left without another word. When Jake turned back, Liam was standing in the doorway, his small face pale but determined. "He's one of them, isn't he?" the boy asked. Jake holstered his weapon. "Yeah," he said. "But we're not running. Not this time." Rex stepped between them, tail stiff, eyes bright and alert. The three of them, man, boy, and dog, stood in that small, dim room, a fragile family forged by danger. Jake placed a hand on Liam's shoulder. "Whatever happens next," he said, "we face it together." And outside, somewhere beyond the ridges of snow and pine, the ghost named Victor Hale was already setting the next trap. The sky over Redfield turned to steel. Clouds rolled low across the mountains, dragging the light down with them until the world seemed carved from smoke and frost. Jake had that old feeling again, the one he'd carried through every ambush overseas. Silence that was too thick, air that pressed too heavy. Elena's message came through encrypted. "Meet me at 1400. Safe house coordinates attached. Bring no one." Jake didn't like it. The language was wrong. Elena never said, "Bring no one." She said, "Travel light or keep eyes open." It was subtle, but to a soldier's ear, subtlety was the difference between life and death. He closed the laptop, grabbed his gear, and turned to Liam. "We're moving." Rex barked once, sharp, ready. They took the back road through the timberline, snow melting into mud under the cruiser's tires. Liam sat quietly in the passenger seat, hands gripping the fabric of Rex's harness. The boy had grown more alert in the past days, less afraid, more aware. But there was still a fragility to him, the kind that came from having too much taken too soon. Halfway to the rendezvous point, Jake's radio crackled. "Dalton, it's Knox. I've got news on Ruby Carter. Meet me at the old freight depot." Jake didn't respond. He looked at the radio, then at Liam. "We're being hunted," he said softly, "but not today." He killed the radio and drove faster. The safe house sat at the edge of a frozen lake, a squat building of concrete and forgotten years. The snow there was untouched, too untouched. Jake parked a quarter-mile out and approached on foot, hand on his weapon, Rex leading the way. The door was ajar. Inside, the air smelled of oil and cold metal. A faint clicking noise came from the corner, a ventilation system cycling too regularly. Jake's instincts screamed. "Gas!" he hissed. Rex lunged toward Liam, shoving the boy backward, just as the hiss of compressed air filled the room. Jake yanked his scarf up and hauled Liam toward the exit, but the outer door slammed shut with a magnetic lock, sealing them in. For one heartbeat, time froze. Then Jake saw it, a small vent at the top of the wall, wide enough for a child. "Liam!" he barked, lifting the boy. "Climb! Go now!" The boy's eyes were wide with panic. "I can't leave you!" Jake forced a smile. "You can. You have to. That's an order." Liam hesitated, then scrambled up the broken shelving, squeezing through the vent. Rex stayed at Jake's side, snarling at the invisible hiss of gas filling the air. Jake's vision began to blur. He fired 3 rounds into the lock. On the third, the mechanism sparked, and the door gave way. Cold air hit him like a hammer. He stumbled out into the snow, dragging Rex by the collar. Liam stood 10 yards away, tears freezing on his cheeks. Jake collapsed beside him, coughing hard until his lungs remembered air. When he looked back at the building, he saw the faint orange glow of detonation cord snaking along the frame. He had seconds. "Run!" They sprinted into the trees, just as the safe house erupted behind them, a plume of flame splitting the mountain quiet. Debris rained down, snow melting into steam. Jake covered Liam with his body until the shockwave passed. When it was over, the forest went still again, save for the echoing bark of Rex calling the world back to order. Jake rose, heart hammering, ears ringing. "They knew we'd come," he muttered. Liam looked up at him. "That man on the radio, it was him, wasn't it?" Jake nodded grimly. "Knox, he's working for Hale." Rex trotted ahead, nose to the wind. Then he stopped, muscles tightening. Jake followed his gaze down the slope. Through the trees, headlights glimmered, 3 black SUVs crawling toward the wreck. "Move!" Jake grabbed Liam's hand. "We head east to the creek. Stay low." They ran until their breath came out in clouds, and the sound of engines faded behind them. When they finally stopped by the frozen water, Jake knelt, pressing his hand to the boy's shoulder. "You did good back there," he said quietly. "You kept your head." Liam looked down at Rex, who was licking soot from Jake's hand. "He saved us," the boy whispered. Jake smiled faintly. "He always does." Then the forest's silence broke again, this time by the distant hum of a helicopter. Jake looked toward the sound and saw the insignia glinting faintly in the fading light. Falcon Industries. Victor Hale wasn't sending messages anymore. He was coming himself. The helicopter's thrum echoed through the valley, a low, relentless heartbeat of danger. Jake pulled Liam and Rex into a hollow beneath a ridge, snow tumbling down from the force of the blades. The dark shape hovered above the treetops, searchlights slicing through the mist like white knives. Rex crouched low, body trembling, not in fear but readiness. His amber eyes flicked from Jake to Liam, understanding more than words could ever tell. Jake whispered, "They're sweeping the ridge. We move when the light passes." They waited, breath white, muscles coiled. The beam drifted over them once, then again, then gone. Jake seized the moment. "Now!" They sprinted through the trees, branches whipping at their faces, snow crunching underfoot. The roar of the helicopter faded behind them, replaced by the faint hum of machinery. A metallic door stood half buried in the mountain slope ahead, rusted but alive with electric hums. The entrance to a Cold War communications bunker, Eagle Ridge, the same name Ruby had whispered in her recording. Jake pressed his hand against the cold metal. "This is it." Liam swallowed hard. "Aunt Ruby's in there?" Jake's eyes softened. "We'll find out." He pried the door open with a crowbar. The corridor inside glowed faint red, the hum of generators echoing off the concrete. The air smelled of oil and iron. Footsteps, soft but organized, echoed deeper inside. Jake motioned for silence. He drew his pistol, Rex at his side, Liam close behind. They crept down a hallway lined with old comms panels and discarded crates until voices broke the silence. "Upload's ready, sir." "The rest of the data's secured. The woman's still refusing to talk." Jake's chest tightened. Ruby. He turned the corner and froze. In the center of the bunker stood Victor Hale. Tall, immaculately dressed despite the grime around him, his silver hair slicked back, eyes as cold as the mountain itself. A pistol rested loosely in his hand, aimed toward a woman kneeling nearby, bruised, bloodied, but alive. Ruby Carter. "So the soldier finally found his way here," Hale said. His tone was calm, unhurried. "You've made my work inconvenient." Jake kept his weapon steady. "Let her go, Hale." Hale's mouth curved into a smile. "You mistake me for a man who bargains. I erase problems." He lifted his gun toward Liam. The world narrowed. Jake shouted, "Rex, now!" The shepherd exploded forward, a blur of muscle and fury. The gun fired once, the shot echoing like thunder. But Rex didn't stop. He slammed into Hale's arm, teeth clamping onto his wrist. The weapon clattered to the floor. Jake rushed in, tackling Hale to the ground. The two men fought viciously, fists, elbows, boots against concrete. Ruby crawled toward Liam, grabbing his shoulders. "You shouldn't have come," she gasped. Jake pinned Hale, pressing his forearm into the man's throat. "It's over." But Hale's lips twisted into something close to satisfaction. "You think this ends here?" His free hand slammed a button on a small black detonator strapped to his wrist. A shrill beeping filled the room. "Jake!" Ruby screamed. Jake grabbed the device, ripping it free. "Rex!" The shepherd lunged, seizing the detonator in his jaws and sprinting down the hall. Jake's heart stopped. "No!" He ran after him, but Rex was already gone, bounding into the far chamber where a web of explosives blinked along the wall. The detonator's light turned solid red. "Rex!" Jake roared. The explosion tore through the bunker like a wave of thunder and light. The shockwave flung Jake and Ruby to the ground, snow and dust collapsing from the ceiling. Liam screamed. Then silence. Thick, awful silence. Jake staggered to his feet, ears ringing, lungs burning. He stumbled into the smoke, shouting the only word that mattered. "Rex!" Through the haze, a shape emerged, burned, limping, but alive. Rex dragged himself forward, eyes locking on Jake. He reached him, pressed his head weakly against Jake's knee, tail thumping once. Jake knelt, tears cutting through the soot on his face. "Good boy," he whispered, voice breaking. "You did it. You saved us." Rex's breathing slowed. His head lowered gently onto Jake's leg. And in that frozen bunker, amidst smoke and ash and the wreckage of evil, a silence fell so deep it felt like the whole mountain was mourning. Liam crawled forward, clutching Ruby's hand. "He's gonna be okay, right?" Jake swallowed hard. "He already is." Spring came late to the mountains, as if even the seasons had needed time to grieve. The snow melted in slow silence, revealing the blackened scar where the Eagle Ridge bunker had stood, a wound in the earth that told a story only a few would ever truly know. Redfield changed after that night. The headlines spoke of a terror cell dismantled, of corruption uncovered within law enforcement ranks, of a heroic K-9 lost in the line of duty. But for Jake Dalton, those words were just noise. What mattered was the promise he had made, to protect the boy, to honor the fallen, and to never let silence swallow the truth again. Rex was buried on a hill overlooking the town. The department placed a bronze plaque beside his resting place, engraved with a single phrase, "He heard what hearts could not say." Every morning before shift, Jake visited that hill with Liam and Ruby. The wind there was always gentle, and the pine trees swayed like guardians. Liam would sit cross-legged, tracing Rex's name with small fingers, whispering stories about their first night together, the cocoa, the blanket, the way Rex had nudged him when he was afraid. Each time, Ruby's eyes would shine with both sorrow and gratitude. The town never forgot. Citizens raised funds to open the Rex Foundation, a rescue and training center for retired and recovering service dogs. Ruby Carter became its director, turning her trauma into purpose. The first dog they trained under the program was named Valor. Liam picked the name himself. Jake transferred from patrol duty to instructor work at the academy. His days were quieter now, mornings spent teaching recruits, evenings fixing the old house that had once echoed with loneliness. Now it echoed with laughter. Liam had his own room, his own desk, his own sense of safety. One evening, after dinner, Liam climbed into Jake's lap, holding a worn police badge. "Can I be an officer too?" he asked. Jake smiled, eyes soft with pride. "You already are, kid. The best one I know." Outside, the sun dipped low, brushing the mountains with fire. Jake glanced toward the distant hill and imagined Rex there, standing proud, tail wagging, watching over them all. In the hush that followed, he whispered into the fading light, "You brought us home, partner." Because not all heroes wear badges. Some leave them behind, buried in the snow, so others can find their way back to warmth.